What is this?
The first sound was a bell, not the clear jingle of a service bell, but a faint, hollow chime that rattled somewhere in the empty lobby. I froze in the dark, keys in hand, my reflection wavering in the dusty glass of the check-in window. The motel hadn't seen a real guest in over 10 years. I shouldn't have heard that sound. The bell came again. Just one note sharp, then silence. My stomach tightened as I turned toward the front desk. On the counter, where no one should have been standing, the old guest book lay open. The pages shifted, as if caught by a wind that wasn't there. And then, pen strokes. Thin, deliberate scratches carved themselves onto the yellowed paper. Letter by letter, until a full name bled through in ink too fresh to be decades old. The pen stopped. The lobby light flickered once and went out, leaving me in the reflection of my own breathing. That's how it started. My first night working the abandoned motel, and the names haven't stopped appearing since. It was supposed to be easy money. A caretaker job, they called it. Just watch over the Riverside Motel, keep the lights on a few nights a week, make sure no one broke in. The place had been shut down since the mid-90s. A murder had happened here, they said, or maybe several. No one told me the details, and I didn't ask. It stood off the highway like a rotting tooth, its neon sign missing half the letters, buzzing faintly with each dying surge of electricity, Motel. That's all it said now. Inside, the air never smelled clean. It wasn't quite mold, not quite dust. More like something had been left behind too long, something that still wanted to breathe. I told myself I didn't believe in haunted places. That kind of talk was for drunks and storytellers. Still, when I first walked past the check-in desk and saw the guest book sitting there, open as though someone had just leaned over it, I felt my throat dry up. The manager, an old man named Carlyle, shoved the keys in my hand and muttered, "Don't lock the book away. Just leave it there. Makes things easier." "Easier for who?" I asked. He only looked at me for a second too long, then left without answering. The first 3 nights were uneventful. I sat in the dim lobby, read old magazines left behind, smoked out back near the drained pool. The only noises were the occasional bat or the wind groaning through cracked siding. Each time I glanced at the book, its pages lay still. Then came the bell. That night I stepped closer to the desk. The ink shimmered in the lamplight, still wet. The name read Room 6 was down the hall, its door swollen from years of weather. I knew it hadn't been opened in over a decade. Yet when I went to check, the brass knob was warm in my hand. I didn't open it. Not then. Instead, I sat back in the lobby chair, trying to steady my breathing. My own thoughts began to betray me. Maybe I had written it and forgotten. Maybe I wanted there to be something strange. Maybe the motel was boring me into hallucinations. I tried to laugh. It came out wrong. Hours dragged. The night pressed down, heavy and silent. Around 3 a.m., a faint creak echoed through the hall. The sound of a door easing open. I leaned forward, listening. My pulse thudded in my ears. The silence deepened until it almost rang, like pressure in a plane cabin. And then, from the farthest shadowed corner of the lobby, a voice rasped, "Someone's waiting for you." I stood so fast, the chair toppled. The lobby was empty. The motel breathed at night. I don't mean that in some poetic way. I mean the walls groaned like lungs, slow and heavy, as if the whole structure exhaled dust and stale air whenever the highway went quiet. After that first night, after the voice, I told myself I'd quit. Forget the paycheck. Forget Carlyle and his silence. Forget the way the guest book's ink glistened like a wound that never healed. But I came back. Part of me wanted to believe I imagined it. Another part needed to see what came next. By the 4th night, 2 more names had appeared. Margaret Hall, Room 2, Jonas Reed, Room 9, each written in a different hand. Different weight, different slant of letters, and always neat, never rushed. Room 2 was boarded shut. Room 9's handle had rusted stiff. I tested both doors, pushing until my shoulder hurt. Neither gave an inch. But when I leaned close, the faint smell of cigarettes drifted out from Room 9, sharp as if someone had just exhaled inside. I told myself to report it to Carlyle. Yet when I called, the motel's landline hissed in my ear and cut off before a ring could finish. My cell had no service the entire property. Step out to the highway and it worked fine. Step back inside. Nothing. That was the first time I realized the motel didn't want me calling for help. It wasn't until the 6th night that someone spoke to me. Someone real. I was outside, smoking by the pool, when I heard shuffling feet on gravel. An old woman stood at the edge of the lot, wrapped in a gray shawl, her face shadowed. She didn't cross onto the property line. You shouldn't sit there, she said, voice trembling. Why's that? I asked. Pool's deeper than it looks. Things sink fast. I tried to smile. It's bone dry. She shook her head slowly, as if pitying me. Then her voice dropped to a whisper. Fragile, but sharp enough to carry. They don't come for water. They come for the book. I stood uneasy. What do you mean? Her lips pressed tight. She turned, walking back toward the dark tree line. Wait, I called. She didn't look back. Only said, leave before your name's written. Her words clung to me like cobwebs. I stared at the pool, at the cracked concrete basin, filled only with leaves and broken glass, and for a second, I swore I saw ripples moving across its surface. The next time Carlyle showed up, I confronted him. You didn't tell me about the book. He blinked at me, slow, heavy-lidded. Book's part of the place. Names keep appearing. People that aren't here. Explain it. He lit a cigarette with trembling fingers. I did this 20 years. You learn not to ask. You watch, you listen, you keep the lights on. That's all. You're saying it's normal? No, but it's steady. His voice cracked on that word. Steady, like he was trying to convince himself. I leaned closer. Did anyone ever check the rooms? His eyes darted to the hallway, then back to me. They don't like it. Who doesn't? He flicked ash onto the floor, muttering, guests. Then he turned and left, as if the conversation had drained him dry. That week, the motel began changing around me. Subtle at first. A chair in the lobby, slightly turned toward the front door when I knew I'd left it facing the desk. A ceiling fan humming when no switch had been flipped. A soda machine in the corner rumbling to life. Coughing out a can of cola that rolled across the tile and stopped at my foot. I stopped drinking from the machine after that. At night, footsteps whispered down the hallway. Slow, dragging, sometimes pausing just outside the lobby, as if waiting for me to speak first. And every night, the book filled with new names. I lasted 12 nights before I gave in to curiosity. Room 6 had been there from the start, Daniel Wren's room. The knob still carried that unnatural warmth when I touched it. That night I brought a crowbar. Carlyle had warned me not to open doors. The old woman's voice still rang in my head. But I needed to know. The wood splintered on the 3rd strike. Dust poured out like a sigh. I shoved the door open. Inside, the air was colder. The walls stained with something dark near the carpet. Furniture stood in perfect order, though every surface was layered in dust thick enough to choke. On the nightstand lay an ashtray with a single cigarette butt, fresh, still faintly smoking. I backed out slowly, heart rattling. The hallway behind me was silent, stretching far longer than it should have. The exit lights flickering as if too distant. When I looked back into room 6, the ashtray was empty. 2 nights later, while I sat stiff in the lobby chair, the bell rang again. Not once, but 3 times. I bolted upright. The book's page turned on its own. A new name inked itself slowly, each curve deliberate. Lydia Moore. Room 3, and then a sound I hadn't heard before. A voice, faint, as if from the walls themselves. Checking in, I whispered back before I could stop myself. Who are you? The silence was thick enough to choke. Then, a hiss, right against my ear, though no one stood near. Don't forget to sign. I flinched, knocking over the chair. The pen on the desk rolled, then stopped dead against the open page. That night I didn't sleep. The next day I drove into town. The library's newspaper archives reeked of mildew, but I found what I needed. The Riverside Motel had closed in 1995 after a string of disappearances. 4 confirmed, maybe more, each tied to a specific room. Police reports mentioned signs of guests checking in, bags unpacked, personal items scattered, but no bodies. No struggle, just gone. And always, the guest book signed. The last article noted Carlyle had been questioned. Released without charge. He was cooperative but unhelpful. The motel was deemed cursed ground by locals. Businesses around it dried up. Families moved away. Only Carlyle stayed, and now me. Back at the motel, I tried to tell myself I had control, that I could leave any time. But each time I packed a bag, something stopped me. The highway felt longer, emptier. My car wouldn't start, though it worked fine in daylight. And always, the book sat waiting. One night I tried to ignore it, facing away from the desk, staring into the blackened TV screen for hours. When dawn came, I finally turned back. The book was closed. A chill ran through me. I'd never seen it shut. My hand shook as I lifted the cover. The page showed my name, Evan Carter. Room 12, my throat locked. I hadn't written it. My hand hovered over the ink, still gleaming. That's when the knock came. 3 slow raps from down the hall. Room 12. The following evening, desperate, I went looking for the woman in the shawl. I found her sitting at the edge of the woods, feeding crows with breadcrumbs. "You knew," I said. She didn't turn. "I warned you. My name's in the book." "What does it mean?" Her hand stilled. "It means you belong to them now." "Who?" She looked up, eyes glassy. "Guests don't leave." "Neither will you." I grabbed her arm. "Tell me how to stop it." She shook her head, whispering, "You don't stop it. You just last as long as you can." Her words shattered me. I stood there trembling as the crows cawed overhead, black wings blotting the sky. When I turned back toward the motel, the neon sign flickered stronger than before. Almost welcoming, almost alive. The first night my name appeared in the book, I swore I wouldn't touch room 12, but the knocking kept coming. 3 measured raps, then silence. Sometimes at midnight, sometimes closer to dawn. Always patient, always waiting. By the 15th night, I couldn't stand it anymore. Room 12 sat at the far end of the hallway. The door looked no different from the others, its brass numbers dulled to a tarnished brown. But when I pressed my ear against it, the air vibrated faintly, like someone whispering on the other side. "Hello?" My voice cracked. Silence. I almost left. Almost. Then the knob twitched beneath my hand. Turning slowly, too slowly, as if guided from the other side, I yanked my hand back. The knob kept turning until the latch clicked. The door drifted open a crack. A draft poured out, cold, sharp, carrying the faintest scent of rotting flowers. I pushed. The door opened wider. Inside, the room was spotless. Sheets tight, curtains drawn, lamp glowing warm as if housekeeping had just left. On the desk lay a single object, the guest book, not a copy. The guest book. Its pages fluttered as though by wind, though the air was still. The names inside weren't in sequence. They appeared at random, different years, different hands. Some dates were from decades before the motel was even built. At the very bottom, beneath my own name, fresh ink bled across the page. Check in. Stay a while. The curtains snapped open. For an instant, I saw faces pressed against the glass. Dozens of them, pale and blurred, eyes wide, mouths moving silently. When I blinked, they were gone. The curtains hung limp. I bolted from the room. The hallway had changed. It stretched longer than before, each door space too far apart, the walls bending inward like the ribcage of some colossal animal. Light buzzed overhead, flickering in and out, casting the carpet in brief washes of sickly yellow. Behind me, doors opened. Hinges creaked one by one. Footsteps shuffled out, slow and uneven. I ran, but the farther I went, the more the hallway stretched. The lobby never came. My breath rasped in the silence, my shoes thudding against the warped carpet. "Evan." A voice sighed behind me. I didn't look back. Room 9's door stood wide. I didn't want to go in, but something dragged my body sideways, like invisible strings tightening. I stumbled across the threshold. The room stank of cigarettes and sweat. In the corner, a man sat in a chair, his outline dark against the lamplight. Jonas Reed? My throat tightened. The figure shifted. I glimpsed a face, or half of one. Jaw slack, skin gray, eyes milky as old glass. Smoke seeped from his mouth with each wheeze. "You signed," he rasped. I stumbled back. "I didn't." The figure lurched forward, not rising but sliding, as if the floor carried him toward me. His eyes bored into mine. "Now you stay." I tore free of the room and slammed the door. The knob rattled violently as fists pounded from the other side. I finally made it back to the lobby, gasping for air. The guest book still sat on the counter, open, ink glistening. More names had appeared, page after page, and everyone had the same room number now. Room 12. I staggered back. The lobby clock ticked loudly, 3:00 a.m., then 3:01, then 3:02. The second hand spun in fits, skipping, jerking, but always forward. The lights dimmed, then came the voices. soft at first, then louder, overlapping. Whispers pressed against my skull, dozens of them speaking over one another. Stay. Your room is ready. We've been waiting. Don't leave us again. I clutched my head. Shut up, leave me alone. The voices hushed, and then one voice cut through. Clear, female, right behind me. You're late. I spun. A woman stood across the counter. Pale face, dark hair draped across one shoulder. She wore a faded dress as if pulled from another era, 1950s maybe. Her eyes never blinked. Who are you? Her lips curved, not into a smile, but something too wide, too sharp. Lydia, room 3. Her hand drifted toward the book. Her fingers slid through the pages like they were water. You signed. You're one of us now. I didn't sign anything, I stammered. She tilted her head. Doesn't matter who holds the pen. The lobby doors banged open. Shadows spilled inside. More figures, gray and flickering, their outlines bending with each step like they weren't built to move in human ways. Faces blurred, but I recognized their names. Daniel Wren, Margaret Hall, Jonas Reed, and others I hadn't read yet. They circled slowly, forming a ring around me. Their mouths moved in silence, lips shaping words I couldn't hear, until they all exhaled together, one unified whisper. Stay. I bolted toward the exit. The door wouldn't budge. My palm slapped against the glass. Outside, the highway shimmered like a mirage, cars passing faintly, close yet unreachable. Behind me, the guests shuffled closer. The motel was alive. I could feel it. The walls pulsed faintly, lights dimming and swelling with each throb. The ceiling fan spun faster until it rattled, then stopped dead mid-spin. The soda machine spat cans across the floor, each one bursting open, spraying syrup that pooled dark as blood. The TV flickered on, static, then grainy footage of the lobby itself. Me at the center, surrounded by shadows. But in the screen's reflection, I wasn't standing. I was sitting behind the desk, smiling, pen in hand. No, my knees buckled. That's not me. But the reflection lifted its head, staring straight at me through the static, lips curling. The clock on the wall spun wildly. Midnight, noon, dawn, midnight again. The lobby lights surged and died in stuttering cycles. The guests' movements blurred. One moment distant, the next inches away. Fingers brushed my shoulder, clammy and weightless. A whisper slithered into my ear. Room 12 is waiting. I staggered back, eyes darting. Every door down the hallway now bore the number 12. Endless doors, stretching into darkness, all marked with the same brass digits. I screamed. One door swung open. Inside I saw myself. Not in a mirror, not in glass, but another Evan, sitting calmly at the desk inside room 12 guest book before him. His eyes were sunken, skin pale, lips cracked into a grim smile. He raised the pen slowly. I shook my head. No, that's not me. I won't. The other Evan spoke. Voice flat, inevitable. You already did. The pen scratched across the page by itself. My chest constricted. I felt something etching deep inside my ribs, like ink carving into flesh. I screamed, clutching myself as heat seared through my veins. The guests crowded closer. Lydia's pale hand reached out, brushing my cheek. Welcome home. I ran, slamming through the open door into room 12. Instantly, the motel warped. The room stretched, walls peeling back into endless hallways, each lined with doors. Behind every door, whispers bled through. Conversations cut off mid-sentence, sobs, prayers, laughter too sharp to be sane. I clutched my head. My thoughts weren't mine anymore. They were layered with voices, dozens, hundreds, all pressing inside. A child's voice whimpered, I want to go home. A man snarled, you checked in. You stay. A woman whispered, you'll forget you were ever outside. I collapsed to my knees. The book lay open on the floor. Pages turned in a frenzy, faster than eyes could follow. Names, thousands of them, scrawled across endless paper. The sound of pen scratching filled the room, though no one held them. My vision blurred. My name repeated over and over, page after page, Evan Carter. Room 12, Evan Carter. Room 12, Evan Carter. Room 12, I screamed until my throat tore. The other Evan knelt before me, placing the pen gently into my shaking hand. His eyes bored into mine. Just finish it. I can't. You already have. He guided my hand. The pen touched paper. My fingers moved, though I fought with every nerve. The ink spilled, my signature blooming across the page like veins crawling under skin. When it was done, The book slammed shut. The motel went silent. When the book slammed shut, the motel fell still. No whispers. No footsteps. No faces pressed against the glass. Just silence. Deep, suffocating, absolute. I sat there hunched over the desk in room 12, the pen clutched in my fist. My chest ached with each shallow breath. The walls no longer pulsed. The lights burned steady. For a moment I believed it was over. Then I realized I wasn't holding the pen anymore. It sat neatly in its tray on the counter, where it had always been. And I was no longer in room 12. I was back in the lobby, sitting behind the desk. The days blurred after that. I can't say how many. The clock ticked, the sun rose, the sun set, but I couldn't trust any of it. Carlyle stopped coming. Maybe he never had. The phone never rang. The world outside the glass doors seemed distant, muffled, unreal, but the book remained. Every night names appeared. 1, 2, sometimes 3 at a time. Always in different hands, always in fresh ink. And now, when the bell chimed, I found myself standing automatically, greeting the new entries with words I didn't know I knew. Welcome. Room 12 is waiting. The words slid from my tongue like they'd always been mine. Sometimes I caught my reflection in the dusty glass of the check-in window. The face staring back looked almost like me. But the eyes were too dark, the smile too sharp. And when I blinked, he didn't. They still walk the halls. I see them when the lights dim, drifting between doors, their outlines broken and gray. They never look directly at me, but I know they feel my presence. I'm part of them now. Once, Lydia stood across the lobby again, her pale face serene. "You're settling in," she whispered. I wanted to scream at her, to demand my freedom, to beg for my life back. But instead I only nodded, and she smiled, satisfied, before vanishing like smoke and wind. Sometimes I hear Jonas Reed's cough down the corridor, Margaret's quiet humming near the boarded pool, Daniel's dragging footsteps on the second floor, and mixed with them, new voices, new guests, always checking in, never checking out. One night I saw the old woman again, not outside the property line, but inside the lobby itself. She stood near the vending machine, shawl draped, eyes hollow. "You stayed," she said softly. "I didn't have a choice. You always had a choice." Her gaze dropped to the book. I lasted longer than most. I thought if I warned others, maybe I'd be spared. But it doesn't matter. None of it matters. Her reflection wasn't in the window, and when I turned my head for a second, she was gone. Her name appeared in the book minutes later. Eleanor Price. Room 12. Time doesn't move right here. Sometimes the sun rises twice without setting. Sometimes night lasts for days. The clock spins, stalls, jumps. I write notes to myself on scraps of paper, trying to track it. But the ink fades, the paper yellows, and when I look again, the handwriting isn't mine. Outside, cars pass on the highway. I see them through the lobby doors. But no matter how hard I pound the glass, no one looks. It's like they're driving past a painting. I don't know if the world out there is real anymore. At first, I fought. I told myself I'd find a way out, burn the book, break the doors, tear down the motel. But the fire never caught. The doors never broke. And every time I tried to leave, the highway looped back, the world folded in, and I found myself standing in the lobby again, pen in hand. Now, I don't try anymore. The book turns. The names appear. I greet them. Welcome. Room 12 is waiting. Each time the words taste less like ash. Each time they feel more natural. I've started forgetting things. My old apartment. My friends. The sound of my mother's voice. Pieces of my life outside the motel flake away like peeling wallpaper. What remains is here. The flicker of the neon sign. The smell of dust and cigarettes. The steady weight of the guest book beneath my hand. Sometimes I wonder if I've already been here for decades. If the life I remember was just a story the motel gave me to make me believe I was new. To make me believe I could escape. Maybe I was always here. Maybe I always will be. Tonight something different happened. The bell chimed. The book opened. Ink scratched across the page, but this time it didn't write a stranger's name. It wrote yours. Yes, you, reading this. The letters curled with deliberate care. The ink gleamed fresh, and below it, the same inevitable words, Room 12. I'm looking at the door now. It's open, waiting. The motel knows you're here, and when the bell chimes again, I'll be waiting at the desk to welcome you.